Imagine a vibrant city, San Francisco in 2013, a city known for its iconic bridge, its bustling tech scene, and its unique culture. But beneath the surface of this lively metropolis, a shadow was cast. A crime was committed that would leave a family shattered and investigators baffled for over a decade. This is the story of how persistence, a bit of luck, and the relentless march of technology finally brought a ghost from the past into the light of justice. Our story begins on a seemingly ordinary day, a day that would turn into a nightmare for one family. A beloved member of the community was found dead under circumstances that immediately pointed to foul play. The initial investigation was intense. Detectives from the San Francisco Police Department worked around the clock, canvassing the neighborhood, interviewing friends, family, and anyone who might have seen something. They collected evidence, followed leads, and pieced together the victim's final hours. But despite their best efforts, the case hit a wall. Leads dried up. Witnesses couldn't provide the key piece of information needed to identify a suspect. The physical evidence collected at the scene, while preserved meticulously, didn't match anyone in the existing databases. The case grew cold. For the family, the pain was unimaginable. Not only had they lost someone they loved dearly, but they were left with no answers, no closure, and no justice. The person responsible was still out there, living their life, while their world had been irrevocably broken. Years turned into a decade. Detectives retired. New ones took their place. The case file, thick with reports and old photographs, was passed down. It became one of those tragic stories, a cold case that haunted the department, a constant reminder of a puzzle they couldn't solve. The community, while moving on with the rhythm of daily life, never completely forgot. Every so often, on the anniversary of the crime, local news might run a brief story, a quiet plea for anyone with information to come forward. But silence was the only reply for the investigators in the cold case unit. However, forgetting was not an option. These are the detectives who live in the past, who spend their days sifting through old files, looking for a loose thread, a missed detail, a new angle. They knew that time, while an enemy in many ways, could also be an ally. Why? Because technology never stops advancing. What was science fiction in 2013 is standard procedure today. And one of the most powerful tools to emerge in modern forensics is advanced DNA analysis. The evidence from the 2013 crime scene had been carefully preserved, waiting for the day when science could unlock the secrets it held. In the early days, the DNA profile developed from the evidence was run through CODIS, the national DNA database, but it yielded no hits. This meant the perpetrator likely had no prior felony convictions that would have required their DNA to be on file. It was another dead end, but then came a revolution in crime fighting: investigative genetic genealogy. You've probably heard of it. It's the same technology that powers consumer DNA testing services like 23andMe and Ancestry.na, where people send in a saliva sample to discover their ethnic heritage and find distant relatives. Law enforcement realized they could use this same technique. By uploading a suspect's DNA profile to a public genealogy database, they could potentially find distant cousins, great aunts, or third cousins twice removed. From there, it's like building a massive family tree, but in reverse. Genealogists and detectives work together, painstakingly tracing branches back through generations and then forward again, identifying different family lines, until they can narrow the possibilities down to a specific individual or family group. It's incredibly complex work, requiring a deep understanding of genetics, historical records, and old-fashioned detective work. This was the new hope for the San Francisco cold case. The cold case unit, in collaboration with specialized forensic labs, decided to give it a shot. They took the preserved DNA evidence from the crime scene and submitted it for this advanced analysis. It was a long shot, a complex and time-consuming process with no guarantee of success. The team held its breath, and then they got a hit. Not a direct match to a suspect, but something just as valuable: a connection to a distant relative in the genealogy database. The door that had been locked for over 10 years had just creaked open. This was the breakthrough. The investigative team, armed with this new lead, began the painstaking process of building out the family tree. They spent countless hours poring over public records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, death records, census data, and obituaries. They followed family lines that spread across the country, slowly but surely eliminating branches that didn't fit the geographic or demographic profile of a potential suspect. They were looking for someone who would have been in San Francisco in 2013, someone of the right age, someone who fit the timeline. It was a monumental task, a true needle-in-a-haystack search. Finally, after months of relentless genealogical research, their focus narrowed. The complex web of ancestors and descendants pointed towards one individual. A name emerged from the shadows of the past. Let's call him the person of interest. The detectives learned something that sent a chill down their spines. This person was still living in the Bay Area. He had been hiding in plain sight for over a decade. Now, having a name is one thing. Proving they committed the crime is another. The genealogical link was powerful, but it wasn't direct proof. It was probable cause, enough to put the person of interest under surveillance. The final, crucial step was to obtain a direct DNA sample from this individual to compare against the evidence from the crime scene. This is where classic, old-school police work comes back into play. Investigators had to find a way to surreptitiously collect a DNA sample from the suspect. This is often done by retrieving something the person has discarded, like a coffee cup, a cigarette butt, or a used napkin. It has to be done carefully and legally to ensure the evidence is admissible in court. The surveillance team watched and waited for their opportunity. One day, they got it. The person of interest discarded an item containing his DNA. The team quickly and discreetly collected it and rushed it to the crime lab. The lab technicians then went to work, extracting the DNA from the discarded item and comparing it to the profile from the 2013 crime scene evidence. And then came the moment of truth, the call from the lab that every cold case detective dreams of. It was a match, a perfect, undeniable, 1 in a trillion match. After more than a decade of darkness, they had their man. The ghost had a name, a face, and a DNA profile that tied him directly to the scene of the crime. The arrest was swift. For the community, it was a shock. This was not a name that had ever been on the radar. He was a neighbor, a coworker, someone who had lived an outwardly normal life for the past 11 years, carrying a dark and terrible secret. It was a testament to their refusal to give up, to the promise they make to victims' families that they will never be forgotten. The chief of police praised the tenacity of the cold case unit, the expertise of the forensic genealogists, and the seamless collaboration that made this breakthrough possible. He emphasized that this success sends a clear message to anyone who thinks they can get away with such a crime. We will not forget. We will use every tool at our disposal, and we will find you. But most importantly, think of the family. For 11 years, they lived in a state of suspended grief, unable to fully mourn, haunted by the unknown. This arrest, this confirmation, finally brought them the one thing they had been denied for so long: answers. It doesn't erase the pain or bring their loved one back, but it begins the process of closure. It allows justice, which had been delayed for so long, to finally begin its course. This San Francisco case is a powerful example of a trend we're seeing across the country. Cold cases that have been sitting on shelves for 20, 30, even 50 years are suddenly being solved. It's a new era in law enforcement where the secrets of the past can no longer stay buried. The silent witness of DNA, once dormant, is now speaking louder than ever before, thanks to the incredible power of genetic genealogy. It's bringing justice to families who had lost all hope and holding criminals accountable. no matter how much time has passed. This case is the beacon of hope for so many others still waiting for their day in court. Thank you so much for watching. The dedication of these investigators is truly inspiring. If you found this story as compelling as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating cases like this one. We'll see you in the next video.